The Daystar saga just entered a new chapter. Jonathan and Susie Lamb have spoken, and what they've said is both a hand extended in peace and a line drawn in the ground that they are not moving from. This comes in the wake of the bombshell revelation we covered in our last video that a close family friend, speaking on Julie Roy's podcast, claimed that Daystar board member Tom Calendar told her directly that Joni Lamb's dying wish was this: if Jonathan reaches out, give him back Daystar. We covered that story in full. If you haven't seen it, the link is in the description. Watch that first, because what Jonathan and Susie have now said is a direct response to that revelation, and it deserves to be heard carefully. Jonathan and Susie posted this on their social media pages. I'm going to read it in full because this is not a statement you should have filtered through someone else's summary. These are their words. Learning that my mother's dying wish was for me to return to leadership at Daystar is both healing and deeply confirming. The estrangement between us was one of the most painful seasons of my life, and knowing that her heart moved toward restoration in her final days brings me a peace I didn't expect to feel so soon. Her wish aligns with what my father communicated to our family and the board in his succession plan. Both of my parents, in their final days, pointed in the same direction. Most importantly, it is a calling God planted in me when I was a child. This was never about ambition or title. It's about faithfulness to a calling my parents recognized and that I have never walked away from, even in the hardest moments. Families experience pain, relationships become strained, but God is big, and His grace is greater than all of it. My desire is to honor my parents, to seek peace where peace is possible, and to see Daystar flourish for generations to come. I am hopeful that the board will honor what my mother asked for and what my father asked for before her. Daystar has never belonged to any one person. It belongs to God. With a mission they sacrifice so much to advance. I trust the board will carefully consider the legacy my parents left behind and the future they hope to secure. I remain ready to serve. Let that settle. This is a man who was fired from the network his father founded, barred from his mother's deathbed, excluded from her funeral stage, and erased from her funeral slideshow, saying, with remarkable composure, I remain ready to serve. That is not the language of bitterness. That is not the posture of someone trying to seize something. That is a son trying to honor two parents who, he says, both pointed toward him in their final days, and asking a board to do the same. And he's right that the succession picture is now extraordinarily clear. Marcus Lamb put it in his succession directive. If Joni passed, Jonathan leads. Joni, according to this bombshell account, told Tom Calendar in her final weeks, if Jonathan reaches out, restore him. Father and mother, same direction, same son. The only people pointing a different direction, it appears, are the daughters and a board that has so far chosen silence over transparency. Now, alongside that statement of reconciliation, Jonathan and Susie posted a second separate clarification. And this one is where things get sharper. Read it carefully. In recent conversations regarding reconciliation, we expressed a willingness to pursue peace, forgiveness, and healing within the family. What we were not willing to do was retract anything regarding our child or make admissions we do not believe to be true as a condition of having that conversation. Those are two very different things. Our child is protected, heard, and supported. Any questions regarding potential criminal conduct belong with the appropriate authorities, not in family negotiations. We believe it is possible to seek peace without abandoning deeply held convictions. We believe it is possible to pursue forgiveness while allowing legal and investigative processes to take their course. Hurt feelings exist on all sides, and we have never claimed otherwise. We remain willing to extend forgiveness, seek healing, and pursue reconciliation wherever possible. Our hope remains the same: truth, justice, healing, and peace for everyone involved. There it is. This clarification tells us something that was not previously public, that at some point during the reconciliation conversations, facilitated by anonymous source and Tom Calendar, a condition was placed on the table. And that condition, from what Jonathan and Susie are describing, involved their child. They were apparently being asked, directly or indirectly, to walk something back, to retract statements, to make admissions they do not believe are true, as the price of a seat at the reconciliation table. And Jonathan and Susie are saying, with clarity and without apology, we will not do that. Let's be precise about what is being alleged here, because the language Jonathan and Susie use is deliberate and legally careful. They reference their child being protected and heard. They reference potential criminal conduct. They say that questions of that nature belong with the appropriate authorities, not in family negotiations. That is not vague language. That is the language of people who have either already engaged law enforcement or are signaling clearly that they intend to. And it tells us that whatever happened, whatever the underlying situation involving their child is, it has not been resolved quietly. It is serious. And it is apparently something the other side of this family wanted Jonathan and Susie to go silent on as a condition of reconciliation. That is not reconciliation. That is leverage. And Jonathan and Susie have called it what it is. We need to step back and see the full shape of this story, because the pieces are now forming a picture that the body of Christ needs to reckon with. Seriously, a Christian television network, one of the most visible in the world, is navigating a succession crisis following the deaths of both its founders. The founder's son, named by his father as successor and apparently recalled by his dying mother, has been systematically excluded. He was removed from the network, barred from family moments, and publicly shamed at his own mother's funeral. Now, when reconciliation was finally within reach, when tears were being shed, when a board member was saying he had been waiting for this phone call, something caused that board member to reverse course entirely, send a denial text, and go silent. And we now know from Jonathan and Susie's own words that the reconciliation process doesn't include a demand, that they retract statements about their child, about what appears to be potential criminal conduct. Jonathan and Susie have said it publicly, under their own names, staking their credibility on it, that reconciliation is not a mechanism to suppress accountability. The body of Christ has seen this pattern before. We have watched institutions circle the wagons. We have watched families close ranks. We have watched the language of forgiveness weaponized to silence the wounded. Jonathan and Susie are refusing to let that happen, and they deserve credit for the precision with which they have drawn that line, because they have not used this moment to escalate, to attack, or to inflame. They have said, we want peace, we want healing, we want Daystar to flourish, and we will not trade our child's safety for a seat at that table. The ball is now the court of the Daystar board. They have heard from a credible anonymous source that Joni Lamb told Tom Callender to restore Jonathan if he reached out. Jonathan has now reached out, publicly, graciously, and in writing. Marcus Lamb's succession directive pointed here first. Joni's deathbed conversation, if the account is true, pointed here second. And Jonathan himself is now pointing here third. Tom Callender has denied the conversation happened. The daughters have not spoken publicly on the reconciliation question. The board has not issued a statement. Their silence at this point is itself a statement. We will continue to cover this story as it develops. If you watch this to the end, share this video, because accountability in the body of Christ depends on people like you refusing to look away. Subscribe if you haven't, and until next time, stay rooted, stay discerning.